Now we want to wind it up and say thank you for what you've done, and also to hear from these two brothers as we prepare to close. But I just want to thank you for your presence here tonight.
Everybody, we got to thank our speakers tonight. Please, please, let's go with one more hand. Now, let's see. I want to make sure I adhere to the schedule. So we're wrapping up right now. You said 2 months. Okay, so I wasn't looking to do anything except pause the video. So I could just yield the floor to you right now, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Take your spot. But yeah, we can go right to it. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, but I'd ask him to kind of give a 15 to 10-15 minute clip of what his experience has been as one who has been in the process of finding his own healing, and how he has been committed to doing some work in the community in order to increase the healing and reduce the harm, and starting from what it had happened in him.
Okay. All right. I yield the floor. Okay. Thank you, sir.
How's everybody doing today? My name is Kemet Shabazz, L. And I want to start off first by giving thanks to the people that made it possible for me to be here, as well as the ancestors. And we would say Ashe, which is an African word that just means we affirm and we give praise. And I also want to thank Lita Shepard and Reverend Ron English for inviting me to come out and speak to you all, as well as the local people, local NAACP. My story starts off with me being a wrongfully convicted fella working on my criminal appeal, incarcerated at the state's maximum security facility at Moundsville. This would be back in 1984. And at that time, I was 18, 19 years old. And I had an attitude. I was angry because I had been convicted. I always believed I was wrongfully convicted, and I had anger as a result of it. And I sought to intellectualize my rage, and I began to study in the prison law library. And I came in contact, which was a circle of people that are working in the law library. I came in contact with those people, and they assisted me in my criminal appeal. But the part that I want to build that's relevant to today's discussion is I had got myself in trouble and got isolated because of my anger and my rage. What happened was a prison guard walked up on me, and I was set up, walked up on me, looked at me and told me, "You need to shave." And I laughed, and as I moved to walk away, he quickly stepped in front of me, and I got charged with assault. And this guy had used that same setup with several other prisoners, but I ended up having to get isolated in the notorious North Hall section of the prison. And it was difficult. Everybody knew that if you go to North Hall, you could be rolled out of there in a box. And I was young, angry. Because of the work that I had done on my criminal appeal, I was called back to court. And while I was in court, January 1st, 1986, the prison was taken over, and there was a riot there. And I was out in court, and I was looking at this, and I was like, man, I was just over on isolation with the most dangerous guys. You know, I was up there, I would need some help. And it had a serious impact on me. When I say a serious impact, people were killed, and there was trauma at the facility. So, you know, the state Supreme Court had appointed me attorneys, and I got in contact with them. I said, look, I don't want to have to go back over there and be in the midst of that, because I wasn't there. I had heard about they was going to take the prison, and I was actually in support of Crane versus Bordenkircher, which was the lawsuit that the prisoners filed against the facility as a result of unlawful conditions. So I was in support of that, and I was a little bit of a headache to the prison administration. But the attorneys told me, man, the prison says when you go back, you're going to have to go back to isolation. And at that time, so I come back from court, I go to isolation, and I get moved from South Hall to North Hall in the middle of the winter. And this is very traumatic. It was Gestapo style. 3:30 in the morning, get up, pack your stuff, you're moving. And it was about 100 of us that was moved from South Hall to North Hall as a result of it's the aftermath of the prison takeover, the prison riot. And I got caught in the midst of it. And I got, for the prison guard setting me up, I actually got about 9 months lockup time for that. And by the time the takeover had went down, I had served that time. But what happened was the prison administration threw me in the midst of all those that took over the prison. And I had to make a decision right then and there. I had to make a decision. I made a decision that I would change my disposition, that I would work on myself. The situation that happened with the guard, which I was still pissed about. I got set up. I was pissed about that. I had a righteous indignation about that. But I decided I would let that go. And I would work on myself, to heal myself, and tone down. I would study. I would take rehabilitation classes. I would work to educate myself. What happened was I decided to write the warden a letter. And the warden at that time was Jerry Hedrick, and he was a known authoritarian. So I didn't have much of a chance getting off on him, I thought, but I got to do it anyway. Well, I wrote the letter, and this was against the grain, but I wrote the letter, and the warden gave me a fair, and he let me off. And at that time, if you were on North Hall was like death row, okay? And when I was released, having been over North Hall, once I returned to mainline population, I received status, because I had just survived North Hall. So, and at this time, as long as you didn't do anything to go to North Hall, mainline population had a lot of privileges, more privileges than I had ever seen anywhere in my life if you're in prison. And so I took advantage of that at that time. I went to school, worked to redevelop myself. When I say redevelop myself, I had to sit down and do an assessment of myself, and who I was and where I wanted to go. I was doing life without mercy, and I was working to get justice on my criminal appeal. And this reassessment, it helped me to the extent that I was able to redefine and dress myself up in a different type of way. So I worked to develop my vocabulary. But what happens is my conviction gets reversed in 1988 by the state Supreme Court, and it was unanimous. It was unanimously reversed by all 5 justices. They said that the police used egregious misconduct. So I took advantage of that, and after about 12 years, I had to file additional paperwork. I worked in the prison law library, and the last piece talked about healing, and the prison law library, for me, was a circle of healing. I dealt with my own case, but I also worked with other prisoners and counseling them on their cases. I learned about due process. I received training from the Attorney General's office. They came up and they trained me, and I actually took time to do well in that class because I found it important to be able to, at that time, to litigate. So, real quickly, I want to be able to move forward on this. Toward the end of my sentence, comes time for me to get out. I filed a successful habeas corpus, and a judge that knows my mother, he discharges me from custody, meaning you're out of Moundsville right now. And that happened in 1994. And shortly before I was released, a group of about 15 black prisoners, I kind of kept it low-key. I didn't want nobody to know that I was getting ready to get released, because if you let people know that you're getting ready to get released, sometimes you get tested. I don't know if anybody knows that or not.
Yeah.
But, so I kept it low-key, but somehow, some type of way, they found out. And all 15 of them got together and they came to me and they said, look here, man, we heard you getting out. I said, yeah, man, successful habeas corpus. And they were like, well, you might want, if you got somewhere else to go, you might want to think about going somewhere outside the state, because West Virginia does not have any programs for people that have been incarcerated to assist us in our reintegration. And they all knew me, but man, you've been gone, you've been in here a while, you might want to think about it. And at the last minute, I made a decision not to go back to the place where I was convicted at, and I went to an area that I grew up in Pennsylvania. And I spent time, this is part of my healing, my personal healing, but I translate this on to other people because I had to prepare for my release. I knew it was coming, and what I did is I wrote the pastor of my grandmother's church, these people had knew me from the time I'm a child, and I knew I had to have a support system. So what I did is I wrote him, let him know I was coming, and when I came, they embraced me. Sunday morning, the older women in the church put me in the pulpit. They said, Brother John, God has blessed you. You get in the pulpit and you read this scripture and you lead church. I kind of felt like, man, that's not me. I'm just a regular guy, right? But they had confidence in me at that time. They seen it was a blessing. And it helped heal me. But I still recognized that down deep inside, I was still injured from the amount of time that I spent in Mountain. I recognized that. I was angry that I had lost all my 20s. You know, I had settled within myself that I had made some type of mistake in my life, and I recognized that. But I still had a lot of anger, and even though I did a lot of work at healing myself. So what happens is, I work with a community organization. That's my way of giving back. I work with Southwest Gardens Economic Development Corporation in Farrell, Pennsylvania. And I do youth dances. I get an opportunity to see young people. I engage them on the level that they're at. They dance, they socialize with one another. I'm the bouncer. And I got an opportunity to share with people at a time where it felt good to be able to see young people socialize with each other and me being in the midst of them and they not be afraid of me, given the fact that I had just got finished doing a substantial amount of time in prison. So that helped me. I also worked with an organization called Black Men for Progress, and that organization was a community organization of black men, and we chartered a bus to the Million Man March. I participated in that, the Million Man March. I came back into the communities. I worked as a security guard. I went from Farrell, Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I worked with Northside Tennis Reorganization there in that area to deal with people that were having difficulty. They had a gang problem there. And so what happened is I got appointed, I got a job as a security guard there, which functioned as another model, meaning that we would secure the neighborhoods, make patrols, but at the same time we would interact with the young people. And so that was healing for me as well. Also, I worked with a group out of New Orleans, and I want to thank Dr. Kimberly Richards and Martha Richards, the director of Southwest Community Development Corporation. They brought the Institute for Survival and Beyond in, and they did group meetings where you get together in a circle and you talk about issues and you discuss these issues. And for me, this is something that the local NAACP had paid for my scholarship to this event, because I was involved with grassroots community work. It was my way, as I was listening to the healing section of the video, of the film, it was my way of giving back. I felt the need to do this. Something strong in me said that I had to, in order for me to be credible, I had to give back. Okay, so I did do a lot of volunteer work with Southwest Gardens Community Development Corporation at that time as a way of giving back. I want to go further into, this is why I'm in Pennsylvania. I also, after 2 years of being released, I make a decision to come back to West Virginia for the first time. This is in 1996. And there were people that had testified against me that were former friends. They were a little leery about me. This guy's coming back out, man. We testified against this guy. But I had to actually, believe it or not, I had to extend the kind hand. And so I had to really assess myself. Personal assessment is very important. I had to assess myself and weigh it out. Is this a situation where you want to try to retaliate against someone that testified you against? That's not a situation. What you do is you let that go and you go ahead on and enjoy your life. So I made a decision to do that. Okay, I met with some of the people that had testified against me years ago. I accepted responsibility, personal responsibility for my own part. And I pretty much let them off the hook. Okay? My goal was to go ahead on and live my life. And you couldn't do that having this animosity toward these people that did this, that they testified against you. So I'm sharing this with you as part of my healing. Coming back to West Virginia, I spent time here. My goal actually was I was pursuing a lawsuit because the prison at Moundsville actually kept me in prison 3 years longer than what I was supposed to be held. And since I had learned how to file lawsuits while I was away, I filed a lawsuit on that. I actually didn't win on that, but I continued to do community work. Worked with an organization in Fairmont called 612 MAC. Okay, and I share this with you because I continue to do community work and counsel other people that went through a situation that I had went through. My stepfather gave me a home that had previously been the church parsonage for Morning Star Baptist Church. And I set up a program there. I called it the Art House Rites of Passage. And the Rites of Passage definition was meant to transfer some of my own personal experience. I did Afrocentric studies, and Fairmont, the house that he gave me, was in the heart of the black community, so I would see a lot of young black children getting off the bus. So I decided I would set it up like a museum, so when they got off the bus, they could quickly see artwork that was African-centered. You know, and I didn't do a lot of I didn't try to preach to them, but what I tried to do was give them visual information where they could see it quickly and they could store this in their minds. And I remember having a discussion there with them right after the Columbine. And this was important for me and for them. And I asked them, these young people from the neighborhood, what they thought about what happened out in Columbine. I'll never forget this. Two young brothers, one of them looked at me and said, my daddy got killed on that corner. And the other one said, well, my daddy got killed on that corner. And you know, I knew both of their fathers. So I share this with you because I was kind of sitting in as their father. I was more like a big brother. I can't say I was a father, but like a big brother that they didn't have. And they shared this information with me at this time. It's one of the things that I found necessary to do in terms of the healing. And believe it or not, I continue to heal every day. Every day is predisposing myself for healing and to help others. I get calls and I get referrals from people that are seeking assistance. Now, I want to kind of get to the end of this because currently today, well, let's say this. In 2007, I worked on a case in Charleston, and that was the Megan Williams case. And because, now I ended up getting that case because I had went to Jamestown for a demonstration in 2007 dealing with the landing of at Plymouth Rock, not Plymouth Rock, but at Jamestown, the landing of the British there. And as a result of me going to that demonstration, I got the appointment on the Megan Williams case. And since that time, in 2011, I brought my god sister on in West Virginia Black Unity Coalition, and we continue to do programs. But the programs have a specific, are meant to have a specific point of dealing with black issues. And at this time, I'd like to say that the legacy of inequality, I got that with me because Lida Shepherd and Reverend Ron English are contributors in this report. And I like to share it with you because it deals with racial and economic disparities within the state, and I found it necessary to directly address the racial and economic disparities. Why? The report came out in 2010, and it won't be too much longer, it'll be 2020, and myself personally, I don't see that racial and economic disparities within the state have been given the proper attention that they deserve. So, you know, being in West Virginia Black Unity Coalition, we feel that we can be authentic in providing notice, whether it be local politicians, whether it be state politicians, whether it be corporations. We believe that black men and the black family should receive direct appropriations. And we're finding ways to say it in a civil way. But we've waited 10 years because the report came out in 2010. So if you see us being a little bit more assertive in saying that something needs to be done about this, it's because we've waited 10 years. So I say if you're going to really do restorative justice, you're going to have to deal with equity. You have to close the wealth disparity. And that means dealing with it head up. That's right. Let's deal with it head up. I believe the state should be building homes for its African American population. They don't get them for free because they worked a long time as slaves and didn't get paid nothing. So they're not getting them for free. So I just want to drop those things here today, and I want to be able to take some questions from anybody that might have any questions for me.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, hold on, this sister right here.
Oh, okay.
When you said you had a turning point when you just said, I'm not going to focus on my anger anymore. What was it? Like, what did that? You just said, you know what, I'm just going to go to the law library and focus, or was it something from your past? Was it something when your mom said to you? What was it?
That's a good question. I like being able to explain it to you right now. What it was is, I had been isolated after the prison takeover around some of the most dangerous people that had been whipped up as a result of the prison takeover. This was a hot spot, okay? If anybody knows anything about Moundsville, if you go to North Hall, you could roll out of there in a box. And I said it again, but it's true. So I made a decision at that time to say, look, if I don't work to educate and develop myself, what I was doing is I was using the program that I had picked up out on the street as a teenager in Farrell, Pennsylvania. I had what you would call a youthful gang-related coolness. And I decided to give that up for a more serious, intelligent posture, which I continue to carry today. A more serious, intelligent posture. That went over that went over a little bit better with the prison administration. Prior to that, I was rolling around, kind of stirring up trouble, being an antagonist, okay? So what I did is I said, well, I'm going to drop the youthful gang-related coolness. That went over with a lot of people too. Y'all know, in prison, that went over. The more intelligent posture, that really didn't get over with too many people. They thought I was trying to be better than them, using big words, reading books. So I had to pay to be able to actually be myself among the prison population at that particular time. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's make sure we thank our people. All right, well, looks like we're coming to the end of everything. Pastor English, I stepped out. Did you have any other words?
No, that word is good enough.
I got you.
Can't do nothing better than that.
Understood. It's been a wonderful, long, powerful night, but it's been just powerful. There's no other way of describing it. So I just want to thank y'all all for coming. Thank y'all all for sharing. And like I said, if you find yourself in need of figuring out what to do next, please reach out to us, reach out to the powerful people in this room. I actually got to give a lot of them, I just got to acknowledge the students that are here for the record. You know, the WVU NAACP chapter. I mean, you see some people going in and out. I mean, right now they're dealing with classes, they're doing all kinds of stuff, but they're right here. They're supported different times, and it's kind of interesting that circle that they're talking about. I still remember actually meeting these two gentlemen actually at the mail program that used to be here. We actually did a lot of that kind of work. I tell you, it's exactly what people would describe. It works. So I'm going to end with that. I don't even know how to transition with that, but I just got to bring that out that I'm hoping we can do that again at some point. In a simple. Yeah, y'all beautiful. All right, well, on that note, y'all have a fantastic night, and thank y'all for showing up there.
One thing, as you leave this place and as you have experienced this space, if there are other ways in which you think this can be shared in such a place like this, or in a space like this, let us know that, and I hope everybody has signed up, because a lot of wants to keep in touch with reference to a legislation that is before you, but also that is coming up for the next session that will be dealing with the kind of issues that are present and are along the line of reform. The longer issue is about transforming.
Yeah,
But
and
we are
along those
closer
lines,
to
the
it.
other thing that we're working towards is having a restorative justice facilitator training next summer. Because part of the issue is like we can maybe try and convince judges, we are really doing that work and really getting that buy-in, like she talked about, working with prosecutors, working with people in the juvenile justice system to really get them bought in. But we also need to be building out the alternative, as in training facilitators in victim offender services. And so that is the other piece too, because we can say, they say, yeah, sure, that sounds great, but if we don't have the infrastructure to support this alternative, then we're not going to build the restorative justice. So it sounds like that's what you're working to do, Delia, which is awesome. And so I think, yeah, if you all signed up and are interested in kind of being a part of this conversation about restorative justice and really building out restorative justice programs also in schools, that's some of the stuff that I know you all are probably already working on, and so hopefully we'll work on it together. So I want to thank everyone for coming too. So.
Fantastic.
Well, y'all have an excellent night. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, that's facilitator
Hey,
program.
brother.
All right, brother, man. Facilitator program. Is that a program where you're going to be paying facilitators?
Oh yeah, if it's something, because I've been doing all three stuff, you know, right? So if the groundwork that comes out of this is to get, and you talking with her, because that might be some compensation that is available by what she's talking about. But that's the program, yeah.
Because I was just thinking that might be healing. Guy gets a job, like I just work in television station. That's healing, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Well, you present a very authentic presence. You know, you do it live. Oh yeah.
That's why I'm listening to you, man.
Well, there's a mutual thing going on here. I really want to say.
Okay, we're going to get together with Jimmy Gardner.
Yeah. Some kind of way. Some kind of way.
How you doing now? Don Horton. Don Spencer, you and the youth ranking person.
Appreciate it.
Well, listen, have you heard about that disparities report I mentioned? Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know.
I brought an extra copy.